Hey, welcome everybody. The February 22nd Select Board meeting is beginning at 6 p.m. This is a call to order. I'd like to have a motion to approve the February 8th, 2024 Select Board meeting minutes.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor? Aye, aye. This is the public forum. Anybody who would like to speak on something that is not on the agenda is welcome to do that. Anybody? Anybody? Anybody in the audience?
We have 8 attendees, but no hands raised.
Okay, we'll move on.
We now have a hand raised.
Okay.
Bo Balkovich.
Who?
Who is it?
Bo Balkovich. You may speak.
Oh,
Yeah, hi. Can you hear me?
yep.
Yeah.
Hey, thanks for hearing me out. My name is Bo Balkovich. I live on 6 Barrels Way, and I am interested in whether or not there's a community plan to incentivize the cleanups of our roads and common areas on Earth Day. As I looked around to see if anybody had anything planned, I noticed that back in 2021, the 3 towns had gotten together to do such a thing. Last year, our little neighborhood, Barrels Way, got out and we, just kind of sua sponte or on our own, picked up places along the road. But then, you go to throw that away and you got to pay quite a bit to take it to the Kennebunk dump. So I was wondering, is there any plan, or do you need help in helping to organize a plan for something that might incentivize folks to clean up the roads in our community, in accordance with Earth Day? Over.
Yeah, Bo called me and talked about their neighborhood cleanup of roads, et cetera, but there is the trash removal afterwards. And I explained that because we don't have a transfer station, that certainly anything would go over to Kennebunk, and that Kennebunk, doesn't have a partnership with us on that particular issue because they have contracted that out to an outside vendor, so it's run as a business, and they themselves have to pay for things that are removed there. But Bo did bring up that he thought it would be nice to have people engage in cleanup activities, and so I said, I don't have anything in the budget currently, but certainly he could talk to you about it, and so that's the idea he's bringing forward.
Discussion by anybody?
Well, in general, it sounds good. I just don't know what the details, what's the plan? What's in mind? What would it look like? Yeah.
I mean, we've been doing cleaning since the storm.
Right. I think, in order to have some kind of major cleanup, we would have to have rent dumpsters and pay tipping fees to get them removed.
Yeah, they're $600 a container.
Plus the cost of
Doing
the weight, So, I mean, it is something that every once in a while people talk to us about. I think some of the challenges controlling the waste that goes into the dumpsters, and whether or not you have a specific day and people bring it, and whether people will start to bring things from their own homes.
Yeah.
I know we've had some challenges in the past with a lot of tires showing up and things of that nature. Oil.
Well, yeah,
So I don't know if Chris has any thoughts on it. This is the first he's hearing of it. So he always likes it when I surprise him. And so, but I mean, I like the intent of it. It's just to bring it to fruition is more challenging, I think.
I think just to reiterate what Lori said, that's typically what we run into. If we do the beach cleanup or anything else, it's, being able to police that dumpster and control what gets put into that. And then try to, mitigate other stuff, other trash showing up that wasn't from the intended project, so.
Okay.
I don't see how we
It's a
can
good
do it.
thought.
But yeah, but if a group wanted to take it on, I don't know if the Conservation Committee or somebody wanted to take it on, or a citizens group and brought a proposal, I'd certainly, I think it'd be a great thing. I know personally I don't have the bandwidth and I don't know to do that, but
Who would pay for it?
Well, that's the question. We'd have to see how much would it cost? You know, that's,
We don't know.
exactly. So I say, if someone comes with a proposal with a plan and a cost, we could consider it. I would think we'd want to consider
Yeah.
it, but,
I think to Sheila's point, this might be a tough year to maybe start it because there's so much other stuff happening right now with the
Still
storm
cleaning
debris.
up from the,
Yeah,
from
the storm debris that it might sort of confuse
Bo, your
it or
mic is still
something.
on.
Okay. Hey, I initially asked if there's a plan, and if there's a particular committee, I'd be happy to, put together some ideas for a plan on, how this might work. And I'd probably draw upon whatever y'all did in 2021 as a, basis rather than recreate the wheel.
so the
So-
people on Barrows Lane would be willing to pay for it? Is that what we're saying?
No.
That's a good way to get me kicked out of my cocktail club.
probably not what
No,
Hey, I
actually,
didn't hear that.
I think
Nice try, though, Mike.
no. What I think we could do is maybe if we're thinking a year out from now, maybe somehow get it put in a budget to support the dumpsters or whatever's required. If you could point me in the direction with who to coordinate with, I could throw a proposal his way. And if you all just don't think that's worth our while, then I'll drop it.
Well, I'm realizing to my chagrin that I sit on the solid waste committee, and this sounds like solid waste. So why don't you, John Dykstra, why don't you reach out to me, and I will see if there's an appetite to look at a 2025 Earth Day event.
Okay, John. Thank you for hearing me.
Yeah,
And I think
Thanks.
it would be good, like you said, to reach out to the Conservation Commission
I
and see
think
if that's
do that as
something.
well.
Go, yeah.
good, good. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, anybody else?
Robin Phillips?
Nice,
Okay, Robin?
John. Well done.
Robin, you can speak. Is she muted?
No, she just.
Hello?
Okay, hello.
Hello?
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Hello, yeah, you're ready. Go ahead.
Yes, I am on the Conservation Commission, and I think that's an excellent idea. And I will say, when we cleared the Bittersweet at Dyke Road, the town brought a town dump truck down, and that was for, Bittersweet and, honeysuckle and brush. But I do my own marsh cleanup every year, and I just put it out with my own trash, or if they're recycles, they go in the recycle. So possibly for this year, we could do that. You can still put your trash out in this town. We don't have even if we did have the big bins, you could do that. Like, we don't necessarily, I don't know if you find a tire, I think that's a little rare around town. So we could just, pick up our areas or work together, and then, it just goes out with, everybody has a trash bag or a can of whatever we picked up and we put it out. But if there were, say, woody material and things like that, possibly the town would let us, throw that in a dump truck like we did with Bittersweet, and that worked out very well. Thank you.
Thanks, Robin. Anybody else out there? Dave?
Other hands.
Okay,
Oh, Robin put her hand back up.
go ahead, Robin. Okay,
Mistake.
no, done?
Sorry.
Anything else, Robin?
No, am I still on?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm lowering my hand.
Okay, thanks.
No one else?
Okay. The next item is a presentation of the proposed June 2024 ordinance changes for the land use ordinance amendments and the floodplain ordinance amendment. I would say that Galen is in the audience on Zoom, and that the land use ordinance amendments that we have reviewed over the last number of meetings are going to the attorney for a language evaluation, for taking a look, make sure that everything is right. And I think that that would probably be the time then that we would want to review and approve the land use ordinance for the LD 2003. Anybody have a suggestion?
No, that's fine.
Okay, all right. So the floodplain ordinance is there, and that one is written. Are we ready to approve that tonight with the caveat that we've got some updates coming?
I don't know if Galen wants to come up. I know that Aga Dixon was working with the state on the state's proposed language and what we would adopt. And I saw she sent a new FAQ sheet out. Galen, are you available? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yes, so that is correct. Aga did get a confirmation from the state regarding the amended language she was going to incorporate into that model ordinance that is in front of you. The state agreed with that language, and so she's going to incorporate that into a future ordinance revision that you'll see probably at a future meeting date. But that's correct. That language will be updated. And we
All
should be
right.
good to go.
Okay, so we'll wait on that one as well. Okay, Galen?
Yep, that's
Okay.
correct.
Okay, thanks very much.
Hey, Mike,
Yes.
could we go back to 2003 for a second?
Sure.
Okay. So I just wanted to, during the discussion point, I just wanted to see what the other fellow board members thought. So I brought up, I think there's sort of three things that sort of came out to me during this workup. One of them is the one I keep mentioning, which is just reviewing, having the growth committee and, with alliance with the planning board, just relook at the growth map before we put this into, this ordinance into effect. Just make sure that, if there's some hazardous areas that we deem from flooding or something, that we just at least get our eyes on it or have that team get their eyes on it and make any changes. The second thing is the parking. I know that there's no, it's from the state law, there's no wiggle room about the 0.6, but I would like to see if the growth committee, along with the planning board, could maybe come up with some things in the subdivision. These are, when you sit in these committees, these people have served on them for quite some time, and they're very knowledgeable, and they might be able to get, something to help alleviate, to make sure that, because we know we're not going to have 0.6 cars, we know we're different than what the state is intending. And so can those committees come up with something in the ordinances to help these subdivisions make sure that there is parking spaces without impinging the requirement in the law of 0.66? Give us some other alternatives.
I'm,
Third thing.
What was your third?
I only had.
My third thing was, they had, I'm still like, I can't get a visual, and I can't remember who said it, if it was Larissa or Hillary at our meeting on Tuesday, but somebody suggested that we get some of the developers that have done these developments to come in here and say, because Mike had given us some, comments at the Tuesday meeting about density. So I think it's like, if we could have a developer come in here, somebody suggested that they bring some of the developers in here.
Gear suggested it.
Yeah, and so that they could take us through, and then this way we can make sure that we've got the ordinances, we have everything we want in the ordinances to make sure that we get the affordable housing part of this bill, and that we're meeting that.
Yeah, I have no problem with, once the language is coming back, then we get our questions together, get them answered. I think the parking was one that stuck out to me as well, that even though they did say that the developer could go, could put more parking spaces there, but, when you look at costs and so forth, so I agree. I think we should take a look at some of that. The only question I have, and I don't know whether it's for Galen or for Lori, but I had lunch today with some friends that we have lunch every week on Thursday, and one of them is originally from Massachusetts and pointed out to us today that, did we read the paper about, I can't remember whether it was Milton, Massachusetts, and whether or not and the people there voted down a similar type of thing, but it was mainly to do with affordable housing or workforce housing. And so the state of Massachusetts shut them off from funding. So my question is what is the penalty if we don't, is there a penalty if we don't comply exactly with LD 2003 from the state? I just need to know that before, and I think we all need to know that before we proceed.
Well, just look at it this way, if there isn't, there will be. They're gonna get you.
I mean, we have
The
legitimate
state is
questions.
our friend,
I mean-
Sheila.
I don't mind looking at these three issues.
No, I don't either. But I'm just,
So
wanna know.
currently, there is not a penalty from the state, in that they aren't saying they're gonna withhold funding. So in Massachusetts, they do have different funding models and also tax benefits for affordable housing. And towns and cities are required to meet certain percentage requirements and things that aren't in effect here. But what they have said is that if you are not in compliance with the law, that you will be liable for, if a developer brings forward a development and isn't allowed to create a development that meets state standards because we didn't adopt those standards, that we would lose in court, and pay whatever penalties there is. So, I mean, that's currently what they're saying the risk is.
And it's sort of, so that's where I would be interested to hear from the developers, because it sounds like from everything anecdotally that we hear, the density for affordability is going to be greater than the 2.5 times. So even if we have the law in, they're going to need another ordinance, bypass or whatever you do, contract or whatever, to get that. So, and I do know the state, somebody had put a bill into committee. So it was in committee in January of this year, and it was for the state of Maine to put together a board that sits at the state level, that
It
then
reviews them.
if a municipality doesn't enact these things, the state can step over the municipality and enact these things. But then that was.
The original was that it would review all of them, regardless of whether you had enacted the
Right.
ordinances.
But then that was pulled from, that was not pushed through committee. So that stopped in committee. It didn't go into the chambers. So I think, Mike, to that point, they're looking, so people are trying to, as well as all the communities around us, when you read the newspapers, everybody's trying to figure out how to enact these, just like we are.
Yeah, I think we should discuss and try to come up with, see if there's any rationale that we can come up with, especially for the areas where we've designated as growth, if they are in areas that are flooding a
Floodplain.
lot.
Right.
Yeah,
And the parking as well.
I agree with all three of them.
I do too.
I'm not clear whether it is something that would hold up the approval. This is stuff that can be done, added to, augmented, changed. So I'm just not clear
Yeah,
if
I
all
think-
this needs to be done before we make a decision to move forward, that's all.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
Well,
fair.
let's wait till we get the language back, and then we'll talk about it then. How's that?
That's perfect. Thank you.
Okay. So the next one, we have an item on the agenda, so there's no action taken on that. So we'll approve the restrictions on vehicle weight limits on certain roads in accordance with 20-A MRSA Section 2395 and the Kennebunkport Traffic and Parking Control Ordinance. Chris?
Yeah, so this is just our annual road postings, for the spring months to kind of cut down on the damage to our roads during the freeze-thaw cycles in the spring. So we've spoken collectively with Kennebunk and Arundel and Biddeford, and we're looking to commence those postings on February 29th.
Have we added any new roads?
We have not added any new roads.
Do we have any problems from the last closure? Did anything come up that caused issues or a problem that we'd want to know of or address?
No, I'm not aware of any law enforcement and that had taken place. You know, typically, we get a lot of calls from contractors looking for us to work with them on it. Sometimes we're able to do that, if we're still having, a lot of freezing temperatures overnight. Typically, they can get in during those early morning hours before the roads start to thaw again. We can cut down on the weight of the loads. So there's different ways that we're able to work with people on that.
Good.
So.
I've got no issues.
I'll make a motion to, excuse me, restrict vehicle weight limits on certain roads in accordance with 29-A MRSA, section 2395, and the Kennebunkport Traffic and Parking Control Ordinance.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Okay. The next item on the agenda is item number 6, where we will accept a proposal from George Burr and Sons to complete the repairs on the masonry seawall, sidewalk, and travel lane on Ocean Avenue. Chris, you're still up.
So I did solicit a proposal from George Burr. This is probably one of it's the second most heavily damaged sites that we had, where we had lost part of the wall there as well as a sidewalk and the roadway. When myself and Mike Claus went down to take a look at that, we were thinking we were going to have a price that was going to exceed probably $75,000-$80,000 for that. George did come down. We talked about, the different options that were probably available to fix that. So he did get back to us with a proposal for $15,700. That would include doing everything on site, from the repair of the masonry wall to, pinning concrete, sub-base gravel for the road, as well as the sidewalk. It would not include the asphalt. We would just have that done under our contract with Dayton Sand and Gravel, in the spring. George is ready to mobilize just as soon as he has weather that's warm enough to support, the mortar setting up correctly on the wall, because that needs to be done first in order to do the pinning work and retain the concrete when it's poured. He's also given us the option. I asked him to quote, all the site work, just because our excavator had been up at the dealer having some work done to it, and I was unsure whether or not I was going to have that back in time. So that's why you see a price of $15,700. He's given us the option, if we want to go in and do some of that prep work ourselves, he will back that back out of this price.
Wow.
Chris, is this the site where there was a drainage area landward that came under the road and then exited? Is that the site that had the big hole? Is that what we're talking about?
Yes, yeah, this is the place.
Did we clean out that drainage? Because it was plugged, as I remember, at the end of the storm.
So there's actually two different, there is drainage down from that location. That is flowing. At this particular spot, drainage isn't what caused the issue. It was a wave action.
Right, but that drainage was plugged. It went through where the wave action came in, right? That was the weakness that allowed the wall to break there, as I saw it.
I wouldn't attribute it just to that. I think, we had rock issues there as well. The water, the mortar, the wall.
It's a cut in, yeah,
Yep.
exactly.
Yeah.
But that drain is going to be looked at as well. right?
Yes.
So that will
Yep.
flow. That's
Yeah.
Any other questions?
So do you want to talk about funding this?
Yes, so, obviously this was, hadn't been budgeted for. We would be looking to maybe reappropriate some of the capital funding that we had in this current budget year. We did budget, I think it was $95,000 to replace a sidewalk on School Street. So it'd be looking, I would recommend reappropriating that money to take care of this repair, as well as the repair that we're going to have to do at the Wamby area as well, and the other two sidewalk repairs that are on Ocean Avenue.
And if we get reimbursement from the state, we can replenish that capital fund. But we still don't have a FEMA declaration at this point, let alone going through the FEMA process to see if it will be reimbursed.
And what's the impact of not repairing that sidewalk? I mean, was it just something that would be good to do, or is it necessary?
No, so the backstory on that, John, was the state sent us their, proposed capital plan for this year. And part of their proposed plan was to overlay School Street from the intersection of Main Street all the way out to Beechwood Avenue. And the issue that we have with that sidewalk right now is there's no reveal left on it, meaning, from the top of the asphalt to the top of the curbing.
Right.
So another overlay, it makes it minuscule. So we were hoping to get in there, cut that, pull that up where it needed to be, widen that in advance of their paving. But it doesn't mean that we can't go back and do it. It would have just been a cleaner job if we could have done it beforehand.
Sounds right to me.
And when I know this is probably a question you can't answer, but any leadway into FEMA, any insight into?
The towns in York County were invited to meet with Senator King. That was a couple years ago.
That was a while, yeah.
Senator King, last week in Saco. He heard our concerns about both the way we are treated by FEMA as well as the need for reimbursement. He knows that is working the way through the process and was in hopes we'd hear something in the next few weeks.
So less than a year waited.
Less than a year.
That'd be lovely.
He said, before you get LD 2003 passed, you'll hear from us.
So one thing I'd like to just mention is that, we've had a lot of damage that's unexpected from these storms. And what Chris is doing, what Lori's doing, we're all trying to do is to make sure that we're staying within the budget. So that's exactly what Chris is doing, is juggling the budget to make sure that we can fix the things that really need to be triaging what needs to be fixed. So that's how we're approaching it, okay?
Sounds good.
Yep, makes
Yeah,
sense.
and doing the sidewalk before it's paved is the way good government should work. In this case, you will see us working on the sidewalk after it's paved. And so we're sorry, but we're trying to juggle those priorities.
The reason.
I get it.
We need our road.
Yeah, we do.
Is there any probability that the state might delay because of everything else the state has to do?
Yeah, so I did speak with two engineers down in the southern Maine area on it. One said, "Oh yeah, you won't even see us, in that calendar year, in FY20, in the calendar year 24." And the other one said, "Oh no, I think we'll probably be there in the spring." So it's hard to say.
So you got a glass half full person and a glass empty
Yeah.
person. Okay.
Yeah. And again, like I said, it doesn't prevent us from going back and doing the work. It's just always nice when the finish overlay is clean and right up to the curb. So, but
Okay,
Need a motion?
yes, I have a motion to,
I'd like to make the motion to accept the proposal from George Burr and Sons to complete the repairs on the masonry seawall sidewalk and travel lane of Ocean Avenue for the price of $15,700.
Second.
all those in favor? Aye. Thanks, Chris, good job.
Just, yeah, I got a second in there. I beat Alan.
did you wanna be
We're
updated
gonna
on-
bring you back.
Okay.
What's he got, another one? Oh, yeah,
He's gonna talk about Pure Road.
your road. Okay, you want to do it now?
Well, Everett's waiting. so-
Oh, Everett's waiting, okay. So, we're going to request, there is a request to extend the shellfish season again for 2024, 2025, like we've done it in the past. Go ahead, Everett.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for your time. My name is Everett Leach. I am your municipal shellfish warden and chairman of the Shellfish Commission. A year and a half ago, October of '22, we came before you and asked you if you could extend this season for 4 months. And our reasoning behind that was because the state closes down Smith Brook and Batson River area for 4 months. So we're just trying to gain back some time lost to recoup for the clamming season. Okay? And you did do that. We thank you very much. And this request here is for the 24-25 season. Last time you did it for 2 years. That's one proposal. The other proposal the Shellfish Commission would like to ask if you'd entertain would be, at that 4 months, there's only 2 months left, and the season will be open for year-round. If you'd entertain the idea to opening clamming season year-round, that would be much appreciated. The folks that dig November, December, January, and February are a hardy bunch, okay?
Yeah.
And they dig those clams for substance to eat, okay? There are a few that get a clamming license, so it's more of a novelty item. They got it, they might use it twice, but they have it in case the kids or the grandkids want to come up and go dig clams. So the area that we're talking about up there in the Batson River, it can sustain that winter digging, because it doesn't get dug up a lot. So that is a renewable, it is sustainable. So if you could entertain either one of those two, we'd appreciate it. Either extend it 4 more months or go to a year. And I'd be more than happy to come up and still, because we walk the flats, we do a visual survey, and it looks good.
What's the downside of extending? Any?
I gotta show up more often. And that's only on me, because I'm stipend, so,
And how's the clam population? We seeded it a number of years ago, I remember. Closed it for a while, and we.
that area is
yeah.
doing well, and there was places 2 years ago that there were a lot of undersized clams. Now they're all legal size, so that's looking good. But we do need to keep an eye on it, because even talking to the diggers that dig, we don't, right at the moment, we don't see a lot of tiny clams, a few. So, hoping for a better natural set. But the commission is getting more aggressive with surveys or reseeding this year or the next, depending on budget restraints. We want to reseed some areas.
Are we doing any reseeding in the last year or two?
Last year or two, we did not. It wasn't
I
in the
know we
budget.
used to
Things
do-
been getting cut quite a bit.
I beg your pardon?
Not in the last few years.
One of the questions I asked, the person that's also on your committee, what happens if it starts getting dug, overused?
None of us on the commission would hesitate to come and ask you to shorten the season.
Okay,
So you
I
do
mean, you
review
would
it.
look for, you would
We
be
do
looking
review.
for that.
I keep in contact with all of those digging. I talk to the diggers that I do see that are out there. What are you getting? Are you getting large clams, just legal clams, or are you finding any smaller ones? So that's just a visual survey. The state is asking us to do a more in-depth survey by their standards. It's a whole different ballgame, and we're gonna do that. Whether we do it, we will need to divide it up into 3 different sections, the complete town, as far as the clam flats go, because the state wants you to do it every 3 years. So if we start one this year, say the high flats, do a survey, the state does their evaluation to do another one, the back cove, another year, and then another one up at Batson River. And then, so the 3rd year we do it again, we're back at the high flats doing a survey. This town, as many in this York County area, has gotten slack on doing surveys and just digging. So,
So those extra 2 months you're asking for just takes us to the beginning of the.
Back to the
year-round,
beginning,
takes it
yeah.
back to the beginning.
exactly, before, we normally do, we used to do it April 15th to October 15th. Then you extended it to 4 months, so to February 15th, so from February to February and March,
Okay.
we're back to April. So
So-
there's another few weeks that the diggers would like to dig that.
Can I, just a quick question on, this year we closed a little bit for red tide. I don't know anything about this. So do red tides actually affect the clam population?
Yes, any of these extensions, or even if it's not, we have to come in compliance with the state for the red tide, biotoxins, and bacteria closures. And that's the reason it's closed for 4 months, is the bacteria closure. The bacteria count is too high, so.
But does it actually decrease the clam
No, it makes
population?
people sick.
No, I know it does that.
that's
I
what it
just didn't know the impact to the clam
Yeah,
population.
Well, just to let you know that the people, I know a lot of these people that test on a weekly basis, the harbor, and they report to the Maine Department of Marine Services and Booth Bay, all up and down the coast. There's volunteer teams that are taking tests every single week, and they're measuring the red tide. There are a lot of different things in the phytoplankton. There's other stuff too.
There is, yeah.
So they report each week, and I don't think we had a closing last year for red tide.
Yeah, we did.
We did,
Did we have one?
we
Yeah.
did, yep.
Do we have one?
And sometimes they last a week and a half, sometimes they last 4 weeks,
Yeah,
You can see the bloom.
so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can, yeah.
And at this point in time, right from the Maine-New Hampshire border up to, Kennebunk, the beaches, the surf clams is closed all the time. But the soft shell clams that are on the intertidal in the rivers, in the intertidal shore area, they're mostly watched for bacteria counts.
And-
But yes, if the red tide
Yeah.
comes, it closes everything. It doesn't hurt
clams
the
and-
clams.
All of the shellfish wash this right through their systems, so that it doesn't, actually, they help.
yeah, so it doesn't like,
Doesn't-
I was just wondering if a red tide then meant the next year you had a lower population of clams. Just my own information.
I don't think there's but I know an expert that can talk to you about that.
No, that's okay, I'm good. I was just wondering if anyone knew here.
Yeah, no, it doesn't hurt the clams. They're all filter feeded. Clams, oysters, mussels, are all filter feeders, and they retain that toxin in their gut. So that's what's bad for you and I to eat. Until there's a certain amount of time, it gets flushed, and then we can eat them again. It doesn't hurt them at all.
Okay, thanks.
Okay,
interesting.
Entertain a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to extend the shellfish season for 24-25 to the full year.
With the understanding that it would be monitored and we come back if it looked like it was being overfished in any way.
Would love to,
Okay,
yes.
good.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye, okay. Thanks, Everett.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good job.
Thanks
Is-
for doing all that work.
Much appreciated. Is that something that's in effect immediately? So I can let some of them know they can dig this weekend?
As of right now.
Yeah, you're all set.
All right.
Call 'em up.
Very good. And again, we only dig for the 3 days, Friday, Saturday, or Sunday.
Yeah.
They can only dig a peck one of those 3 days.
Yeah, they can drop a half a peck off at Town Hall then, that would be lovely.
Yeah.
Put your name on the list, and we'll try and fulfill it. Thank you very much. I'll let them know.
Okay.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we want to go to other just to bring Chris up so he can go home?
Yeah, let's go to, so Chris doesn't have to wait around all night. Yeah.
Let's get Chris done. What's other? What other does Chris have?
I just asked Chris to give you an update on the Causeway project. We had our first pre-construction meeting with the contractor this week, and so we want to send out notice to the public, but thought we'd update you on the project.
Yeah, so Sergeant is gonna mobilize down to Pier Road for Monday. They're gonna start setting up the erosion control down there, as well as the traffic devices. They have some temporary traffic lights they're gonna set up, so they can, start putting traffic to one lane. At this point in time, it's looking like, at least the northeast wall will be completed by right around March 18th. The southwest wall, southwest wall would be complete right around April 15th. In May, beginning of May, they're gonna get down, that's when they'll start working in the road to replace the sewer main down there, as well as start bringing everything up to grade. We're looking at the fine grade and the base asphalt right around May 31st. And then after that, they'll be doing a lot of the cleanup items that need to be done down there. the landscaping, bollards, sidewalk, guardrail, that type of stuff, and they plan to clean up and be demobilized by June 28th.
Wow.
And then the final overlay will wait until, probably spring of '25, because we just want the base to go through a freeze-thaw cycle before we overlay it.
Okay.
So when you speak the northeast wall, that'll include the extension along the base as well?
Yes, yeah, the extension, work on that first, so that'll allow the other contractor involved to get in and do what they need to do, give them plenty of time to work on that, so.
And you want to just talk about the traffic pattern?
Yeah, so, at this point in time, it's gonna be open to, one lane at a time. They're gonna work on that wall first and then move over and, work on the southwest wall. They think they may have more room, so after they get the walls done, they'll be able to open that way, back up to two-way traffic. It's just gonna depend on, how much room they actually have there as they get going, so.
But starting next week, people should count on one lane at a time.
Yes.
One lane traffic, so they'll take turns and they'll have an automated system out there.
Yep.
Super.
Good, nice,
Thanks, Chris. Good job.
nice.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item is consider applying for the Main Shore and Harbor Planning Grant to study design options for the Colony Beach parking area.
Yeah, Chris and Eric and I have been meeting with engineers and consultants on the Colony Beach parking area. So rather than just rebuild that gravel parking lot and watch another storm take it away, we're trying to look at what other options might be available for the board's consideration. One of the consultants we met with was GEI, who seemed to think they could do some analysis of that site. They got back to me and suggested that we apply for a Main Shore and Harbor Planning Grant. The maximum grant award is $50,000. There's a 25% match. And so I said, sure, that sounds good. Certainly we're eligible activity under the grant requirements. The grant isn't due till June, but I would need authorization from you to apply for it. We would have to take our 25% match from capital, but we would likely have that by the next budget.
I'm all for it.
So
Yep.
am I.
All right, I'll
Yep.
entertain a motion.
Okay, make a motion to authorize, where are we?
The town manager,
The town manager to apply for the Main Shore and Harbor Planning Grant to study design options for the Colony Beach parking area.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye, good, that's good news.
Hopefully.
Well, maybe it'll get open. Okay, item 9, Town Hall Building Committee update. As we promised, that after each meeting, we would make a report to the public and take questions if anybody has questions, so where we are so far. But we started the meeting with Owens and Mike. We had our engineer and our architect there, along with a number of different experts. And we ended up talking about the new space analysis, reducing the overall square footage to revise the proposal. It now stands at about 10,000 square feet with about 40% dedicated to that meeting room. So we went to the survey, as you know, and got the responses. Overall, we found the turnout responses within our expectations, that the price, the size, et cetera, et cetera. So we ended up, the meeting, we had a number of professionals in their field for heating and cooling. And Mary Beth, jump in anytime. Banshee Gorge spoke about the role of building energy modeling, high-performance buildings, and what that means, and the level of design that is needed to complete the building modeling. He supplemented his presentation with graphical presentations of a building energy modeling. And it was very interesting. Then Anthony Davis talked about geothermal systems, commercial VRF systems, air exchanges, energy recovered ventilators, general costs of geothermal systems, sizing a geothermal system, and just about everything you wanted to know about geothermal systems, which turned out to be very interesting and making us aware of that. It's come a long way. And John Dunster, from Revision Technology, talked about explored solar options, whether on-site or off-site. He outlined the tax credits applicable to on-site installations and explained the various types of solar, fixed tilt or trackers, with some general comments on sizing a solar system and associated costs. It was very productive for all of us who were there at that meeting. The discussion points, we asked a lot of questions about the energy, of course, and discussed the results of the survey. The other thing that we did do was that we decided that we were going to evaluate 2 sites for construction, and one was the fire station lot here, and of course the other one is the village parcel. And so we've asked the architect and the engineers to take a look to see what would be involved here if we tried to extend the fire station and grow out that way and add the town hall to this campus. So that is going to be ongoing, and we'll discuss that at the next meeting. There's a lot of things to consider there for both locations. So in a nutshell, we're looking at downsizing. We're looking at how we're going to consolidate or conserve energy, and we're looking at cost and square footage. All of those are being discussed by the committee and, of course, Mary Beth and I. Mary Beth, you want to add anything?
I think I just want to, I think that's a really good summary. I think I just want to emphasize the amount of learning that the committee received on the energy side of it. And then the importance of the energy modeling that they took us through. That will help us get the cost benefit for what type of system would actually be most beneficial for what type of building that we end up with at what site. So, you know, all those factors play into it. And as Mike said, we are looking at 2 sites so that we can really pressure test and make sure that we end up with the best location for all those attributes.
Have you also looked at integrating both so that, for instance, and I think of what happened in Texas that week that they had snow and their electric grid, there was no sun for over a week.
Jennifer,
Yeah.
you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah. to
Yeah.
have something.
So I think there's, yeah, and so that's why I think everyone, you know, I think what was really good is that the consultants that they brought in are, you know, have built in the Northeast. And so they come in with the mindset of the backup needed. And it's not so much, I think everybody goes to solar, you know, and as Mike went through, there's options, there's geothermal. When I went to college, heat pumps were only efficient down to, I think, like 30 degrees Fahrenheit. Now they're efficient down to -14. So as technology advances, you know, there's other options that we have at play, and each one of those options brings a different level or a different need for a backup. You know, solar would probably be the
As long as
most.
you're looking at both.
Yep.
Oh,
Yep.
yeah.
As far as I'm concerned.
Yep.
There's no decision been made.
No.
And we're exploring every option.
And the backup that we talked about was to keep not normal operations, but to keep, you know, the facility in a working state, meaning nothing freezes, emergency stuff can happen. So that's, you know, it's not like everything's open, all the windows are open, everybody can come in and do normal business. That's not the point of the backup energy. The backup energy is to make sure that the building's maintained and critical essentials are able to be done.
Alan, did you want to add anything?
No, I'm glad you covered that, because it was important to understand that. Sorry, Mike, yeah. Alan Evelyn, I'm on the committee as well. I'm glad that you covered that, because it seemed like initially there wasn't any discussion about backup. And we know, as you spoke to, in Maine, it's going to happen at some point. We're going to lose it, and hopefully it wouldn't be in the winter when you have freezing temperatures and could freeze all kinds of pipes, or in the summer. There needs to be some backup, and I'm glad it was covered.
yeah.
Thanks.
Hey, thank you.
And are we keeping the possibility of having this as a resiliency hub also in the planning? Because that the backup certainly plays strong in that as well.
Well, the backup would be a generator, of course.
Exactly, but having the facility serve also as a resiliency hub.
We haven't got that far yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think if you have certain thoughts about what encompasses a resiliency hub, you know, that would be helpful for the committee's consideration, because
would.
I'll take
people,
that action.
people have thoughts on that from A to Z, you
Yep.
know what I mean?
Yep.
And so
Yep.
It could
I'd
go
want to
from a
make sure we're
warming hut
meeting
to
those
something else,
definitions.
you know.
No, that's definitely, the climate action planning will handle that. That'll be good. We'll get that to you.
Okay.
So I have just one
Yeah.
quick question. So if you guys have looked into, in case, 10, 20 years down the line, that they'll be able to add on to this building? If they need more space?
No, we haven't got that far
Haven't
yet.
got that,
No,
okay.
haven't got that far yet.
No,
I-
but
That is a
that's,
question
yeah,
that would be, that has arisen, though.
yeah.
I think that the site here at the fire station would be
constrained.
constrained. I
This
mean,
would be
they've
constrained.
pointed that out.
Thank you.
Anybody else have any questions?
The
No?
hand raised on Zoom,
Okay, who?
Melinda?
Hello, Melinda. Go ahead.
Yes, hi, this is Melinda Anderson, 5 Acre Farm. I was looking at the capital improvement plan that was put on with January 11th meeting for 2025, and I see a line item on there for the town hall construction for 9 million. How did that, whose idea was to put that forward?
It was ours.
Meaning you as a
We don't,
board?
well, Melinda, we don't have an idea yet of if it's gonna be 8 million, 9 million, 10 million, we don't know. So it was already at 8.8 million, so we ended up just rounding it to 9 million, leaving it there as a placeholder. And when we know how much the cost is going to be for a new town hall that we come up with, the committee comes up with and so forth, then we'll know. But we put that in as a placeholder.
So I thought I heard that it was heard loud and clear that there was problems with the vote, and in the results of the survey, it was obvious that the cost was part of the problem. And with looking at selling the town land passing, obviously it was a problem with the cost. So I find it quite insulting to think that you guys are going higher versus lower.
Well, I'm sorry that you're insulted, but right now we are working on a plan, working to develop a plan, and then when we get that done, we'll know what the cost is. That was put in as a placeholder, and I think it was put in, was it before the vote or after the vote?
The capital improvement plan was developed in December and brought to the board in January. And recognizing that the town voted against it, and understanding we would come forward with a different plan, but until we have a different plan, we just recognize it. The capital improvement plan is not a spending authority by anyone. It's just recognizing the projects that are still out there that need to be accomplished.
And it's a starting point that's higher than what was before. So to
Well-
me, common sense does not allow this to be making any sense at all, other than it's just insulting.
Well, I'm sorry you're insulted, but that's the way we're working, and you'll have to live with that $9 million as a placeholder.
Well, I hope that's in the notes, the minutes to the public.
So it is true to say that the the town hall committee is working, right? So that's what we're looking at. So what the town hall committee and what we're bringing forward to these meetings is, as we just said, the results from the survey again, were, as Mike said, aligned to what we thought, which was cost and size. And that's what's happening within the committees now to make sure that both are driven, down, and that we also, balance that and come back with a workable solution. So I think it's fair to say it's a placeholder.
That's what,
And then with the acknowledgement that we heard loud and clear, and we're working on aspects of the design, size, et cetera, to drive the costs down.
Okay. Next.
thank you, Melinda.
My hand's still up.
Oh, okay.
So how does this work going forward?
Go ahead, what you got?
I think, can you hear me?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, okay. So how does this go forward to watch this line item? Does this end up going into the budget just in some way that you guys vote this through? Or how does that work going forward?
Does not go into the budget.
It does not go into the budget.
That's
Yeah,
correct.
so for example, can we use this as an example? What do I want to say, the recreational plan that got put, that was brought forward by Allison and, Stephanie, sorry, apologize, by Stephanie and reviewed. And then the line items got put in terms of what, could be the art of the possibility for year over year. But those are, as similar to the 9 million, those are placeholders. And so then when the March budget process starts, those are the puts and takes in terms of what will make the cut for the following year. Very similar to when Chris was just standing up saying that he did have capital improvement for the sidewalk. Now we know that that's a wash. That's getting moved over to take care of some needed work, emergency work for this year. That may show up for next year's budget. So that's, so these should be viewed, as Lori said, as placeholders, and then through the budget process, things get pressure tested, things get aligned into the actual budget for 2025. Does that make sense, Melinda?
Well, I guess so. It just seems like we're heading in the wrong direction. I saw in the survey that there was plenty said about renovating the current town hall, and I know that it was brought up when the town hall was voted through, the one that we are using now, that it was voted through to add on to. And now to think that we've done a survey and we're not even considering that, and you've gone up, even though if it's a placeholder, there is a number there that is above what we were even entertaining before. So it just doesn't make sense at all. It just doesn't. So thank you for asking, but still, it makes no sense to me.
Okay.
Okay, thanks, Melinda.
Thank you.
Townsley has her hand up.
Who?
Susan Townsley.
How come I know that name?
Go ahead, Susan. She still have her hand up?
Yep. Ask her to unmute. She hasn't yet. There we go.
Hello? Can
Hello?
you hear me?
Now
Yes.
we can.
Okay, good. Two questions. First, why is the McCabe property not being considered as a possible location for town hall?
And two?
So, do you,
Go ahead.
okay, so at the first town hall meeting that we had for this committee, so we had two committee meetings. The first one, the architect or the project manager took us through the work that they did during the first town hall committee meetings, and it was really the topographical outlay of the land at the McCabe property. So putting something like a town hall on that versus, the topography of the land, it's not conducive to a flat type building of a town hall. Likewise with a parking lot, that you wanted a flat grade for ADA access, and then also in addition, the road up to get to that parcel. and bringing back the, so that was things. And likewise, people had mentioned the lot behind the police station that had the exact same feedback from the consultant in terms of why those parcels were not conducive to a building, a facility building that would be this size, this type of footprint.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like there's an easier way with a flat piece of property, but it's not impossible. There's certainly plenty of municipal properties that are not on flat parcels.
Well, easier equates to less expensive, and that's the point.
Yeah.
It's a cost driver.
Okay. Well, yeah, I'll just let that one go. That's good piece of information for me and the public. Thank you. Part two is, and I'm not sure exactly how this question fits in, because clearly you have a town hall committee that's got a mandate to look at town hall. But given what we've been through, is there not a leadership position that would stop this whole conversation about town hall and say, we need to just pour all of our resources into addressing the challenges of climate change and our economic center in this community?
We have to do both. We have to do both. We can't, we've got to address everything that we can within reason.
Yeah, I'm gonna just push back on the we have to do both.
Okay, push back.
I think there might be I think there might be a leadership position that would say that we need to prioritize one over the other. Yeah. So
Okay, thank
I
you.
really challenge you all, select board, to take that seriously.
Okay, thank you very much. Anybody else out there?
That's it.
Okay. Anybody else have anything they want to say about town hall?
So I think I just would like to make a comment to the last part of that discussion. And I think that's sort of my impression, and Mike and Lori and Alan, tell me if you feel differently. But when we're addressing the two sites for the potential town hall, part of it is also, using efficiencies. If this site does prove out, that will stop us from potentially a large parking lot on another site, which is area coverage of land. So I think some of what Susan was referring to, we're actually trying to think through, as Mike said, and trying to do things that are, to try to do things that multiple things within the town, but keeping eyes wide open to try to address these different factors that are that are concerns of our residents and the current concerns that have been voiced. I don't know, Mike, if you and Lori and
No,
Alan
I
have
just say that we're considering all options on the town hall.
Yeah.
And we're doing the best we can to address the damage that was done with the storm, and we're doing that. So I think the leadership that we have on the town hall committee is very good. The people who are on the committee are very good, and there's not a person that doesn't have the best interest of the town at hand, both on cost, size, whatever you want to say it. So I think the leadership in this town is pretty darn good. So, and I think we pretty much know where we're headed and what we need to do, but we appreciate your comment. All right, next. Okay. So.
Susan, raise your hand again.
Susan, go ahead.
I'm not quite sure you heard my comment. If you say
did.
that
we heard your comment. We did.
No, let me get clear. What I heard you say is that you're trying to address the damage that was done. My comment is we're facing future damage too. So this isn't just about repair. This is about a leadership position around climate change and the vulnerability of our Dock Square, not to mention other parts of our community, and where our resources should best be pushed.
Okay, yeah, I missed that. But what we're doing is the the climate plan, the climate committee has come up with a recommended plan that we're gonna review and, at the select board on March 28th. And, with, a number of things to, help prepare us for future resilience to anything that comes along with climate change. So, we are addressing that, and like I say, we're doing both. We're doing more than just the climate, and we're doing more than just the town hall. But the climate thing will be, that's going to take us a long time. I mean, the results of what we're trying to do may not be apparent for a long time. It's just the way the climate goes, and we're trying to do, come up with ways to mitigate the Dock Square flooding. We're working on that. We have been working on that for 2 years. And hopefully we can come up with some kind of a solution that, but you know, any solution for trying to mitigate flooding at Dock Square is very, very expensive, something that we cannot, as a town, likely afford. So it's going to take state and federal help to do that. And unfortunately, we're in line with a lot of other people, so we're going to try to do what we can do to protect the downtown area with Kennebunk. So both of us. So we're working on it. It's not something that you're going to see results quickly.
So moving on.
Anything else?
It's not.
Okay, guess not.
Moving on.
Okay, so number 10, authorized electric vehicle lease with Hyundai for the Public Health Department.
This is the car that they gave us for 3 years?
So we received 2 vehicles 3 years ago for a $0 lease, and those leases are up this coming March.
Okay.
We had one for public health and we had one for the code office. So we were looking at what to do in terms of public health because they have no other vehicle. We talked to you about whether or not leasing another one would make sense. There is no $0 lease at this point in the game. So we could lease a Hyundai Iconic, and by applying for a rebate with Efficiency Maine, the lease would be about $5,500 a year, and that's up to 10,000 miles, which is what we're under. We're under, with our past 3-year history, we can tell you we're under that. That to me makes financial sense because we would be spending about $6,000 in mileage reimbursement to the public health nurses for all their office visits. Nicole has filled out the paperwork and sent it in to Efficiency Maine for the rebate, and we could pay for the lease through the Pick-a-Bit funds. And so that to me makes sense to continue on that vehicle. So this authorization would be a resolve from you that would allow us to continue in that model.
What are we gonna do about the Public Works?
The codes? So codes had the Subaru, and this electric vehicle was the second one that Town Hall used, but mostly codes, so they could both go out. So they would be down to one vehicle again.
Okay.
So it may require that sometimes someone uses a personal vehicle.
Okay.
I'd like to
Any
make a
discussion?
motion.
Want to make a motion? Okay.
Yeah, I'd like
I was
to,
going to make the motion. Go ahead, John.
Beat you.
Yeah.
I'd like to move that we authorize the electric vehicle lease with Hyundai for the Public Health Department Hyundai Kona Ioniq vehicle.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
I am slow. Sheila's like right on that. It's
Except,
like, I want her and like.
I'm going to read these donations, and so we have the good news to accept a $50 donation from an anonymous donor to the nurse's general account. Accept a $50,000 donation.
$50.
$50, sorry, donation. $50. got big money on my mind tonight, I guess. Accept $50 donation from an anonymous donor to the Emergency Fuel Fund, and that's it. I entertain a
moved.
motion.
Yep,
Second,
All those in favor? Aye?
gratefully.
Okay. I'll accept a motion to approve the
other
town
business?
warrant.
Wait, my other business? Oh, town warrant.
It's not there.
Oh,
right?
town warrant? Sure.
Other business,
Other
let's do other business. I missed other business. Mary Beth,
I'm good, thank you.
I'm good, thanks.
I'm
thank you, no?
good.
Good.
So I'm going to invite Chris back up again.
He didn't get to go home?
All right,
So recently, well, we offered to let him go home, but he is so diligent a worker. So recently, the Planning and Code Department was updating their records in terms of accessory dwelling units and identifying which accessory dwelling units were recognized by our zoning and land use code. And so then we passed that list on to the wastewater department because certainly if they are an accessory dwelling unit, they should have a separate sewer unit. We charge by units, not usage. And so Chris has started going out to visit people, and keep in mind that when you have a sewer service, you need to not only pay the annual bill, but you need to pay an impact fee to install that service. So Chris has the joy of going out and meeting with people and talking to them about past due bills as well as impact fees. So as most things in life, it is not a simple path. And Chris has found that there are some circumstances, and so he will continue down this path in the weeks ahead, but wanted to touch base with you, let you understand what some of the issues are he's uncovering and get feedback from you.
So I'll just start by saying, you know, everybody's very agreeable to let me come out and inspect what was there. I would say the point of contention in speaking with people is the impact fee, you know, because the impact fee is $3,500. In speaking with these people and looking at their vision property card, there's other factors that I think need to be considered. You know, for example, you know, the first one that I went to look at today, the owner is actually residing in the accessory dwelling on the property because the house itself is not habitable right now. You know, so at this point in time, you know, I don't think that we have 2 units there. Certainly that apartment that went in at some point was never built, never paid an impact fee. But, you know, the house will have to be remodeled before he can live in it, and obviously the house itself isn't contributing. The second one that I went to was a apartment that we had on Wallace District Road, and in speaking with the owner, they have a seasonal water service to that apartment. So it's not something that they could even rent out, you know, during the winter months because the service is so shallow that, you know, if they were to leave it on, it would freeze. The intent of this apartment right now is simply just to have a place for family to stay when they come up to visit in the summer. Another caveat to that is they bought the house like this, so they are not the owners that put the apartment in. So, you know, if we were to charge them the impact fee, they're not the ones that actually had the apartment put in. So they bought it assuming that everything was in place when they bought it.
Chris, are they connected to the house, or are they standalone?
Yeah, so it's actually connected to the house. It's fed from the house. When they looked at doing some renovations to it, they had talked to KKW about actually bringing in a year-round service line. And the expense, I think that they were told at the time, was $30,000 to $35,000, which was cost prohibitive for them. So they kind of just left it, you know, tied to the house. But as a result, they can't use it during the winter months.
Just for my education, could you explain more what the impact fee is meant to cover or be for? Or it's
Sure.
done once when it goes in, is that the idea?
Sure. So that would be the fee that, we would collect for a new structure, a new accessory dwelling, when somebody applies, for the building permit to erect a structure. That $3,500 goes into, a reserve account that's meant for upgrades, future upgrades at the plant. So those impact fees are collected, so obviously as we get more houses in town, or we have, other permit requirements that are imposed upon us by DEP, we have money there to go to help.
So
with
let's
those
just
upgrades.
clarify that there's not a big whopping load of money sitting there waiting for those
Right.
future improvements. So the funds are divided out in between, we have a reserve for sewer extensions, we have one for pollution control, which is basically the treatment plant, and another one that I can't remember the name of, but it's very similar in terms of its general maintenance. And so you have used some of those funds in the past. So like before we did the $6 million bond, you approved the use of 400,000 of those reserve funds to do the engineering up front. And so for the improvements we've now done. So there are some funds in those. They're not huge amounts of funds.
So it's a system impact fund. It's a
Yeah.
Correct.
not to the land or something of that sort. So
Right.
the fact that they didn't put in a new connection doesn't really matter.
No.
If they've added another unit with another set of bathrooms,
Yes.
and it's the extra.
That's going to create the
So
impact, yeah.
Everyone should pay it. So that's why I was kind of seeing if there's a way you could, but it's,
Are-
yeah.
Yep.
Are these people told that there's an impact fee when they take the permit out?
This goes back to one of the issues. Some of these apartments have been there since the mid-'80s, so I can't speak as to what happened then. Some of these went in the early to mid-2000s. I would assume at that point there may have been a lack of communication, because the way, we handle this now is when somebody goes into the codes office to, build an accessory dwelling or build a new structure, if it's serviced by sewer, code says, oops, you gotta go over to wastewater first, fill out a wastewater connection application, then come back and see us. So I'm assuming that there had been a breakdown in the process, when these were built. I do know of at least one of these that was built, and they received a notice of violation because they were never permitted to build the structure. But again, knowledge never came back to wastewater, for wastewater to weigh in on that,
So
so.
now they are told now that there is an impact fee once they take a permit out to go ahead and build an accessory apartment.
Yes,
Yeah.
yep.
And I think,
Yep.
and how many so Galen and the team put together, how big is this list that you're going through?
Yeah, so I received a list. I can't remember exactly how many.
There were about 15.
The list contained more than 15, but I went through to look at which properties were serviced by wastewater.
Okay.
And I just focused on those because obviously, the rest of the list is immaterial as far as, reconciling our accounts. So, but there was about 15 of them that we're looking at.
Okay,
So is this information, or are you,
Well, I think that for now it's information unless you have some different feedback. I think a lot of the feedback that Chris is getting is, I bought the house and this was here, and Chris and I discussed, there's no amount of due diligence that someone could do that would have uncovered this. They normally will call and say, is the sewer bill paid? And if they have sewer, we'll look them up and say yes or no. But in this case, there was an additional unit that sewer wasn't aware of and wasn't billing for and didn't, charge an impact fee at that time. So people are saying, why am I being penalized for something somebody else did? And the impact fee bill is substantial and it's surprising to people. And so, that's the feedback we're getting out in the field. And we just want to make sure you are understanding of that. And, we'll continue to go down the list and talk to everybody and certainly come back to you with a final synopsis, but, you know, we just want to make sure you're on the same page, and if not, that, you know, we get that feedback so that we're not miscommunicating with the
Is there
public.
anything that be done, not just when a new permit's taken, but when a sale is made of a home that has an auxiliary? Is there a way that we can check to see if it was paid and have it covered then when the sale is made? So at that point, it's a smaller piece, and I think it's appropriate to be done. I have more empathy for someone who is now discovering it.
Yeah.
Didn't know it.
I think the challenge is we don't get notice of sales
Sales.
until after they occur.
Yeah, yeah.
I just have a hard time billing somebody for something that they didn't do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a hard time with that.
I feel that because I think Galen didn't have that list of accessory dwellings, and I think that was excellent work that the town went back and shored up, and now we know where these buildings are. I think the work that Chris is doing, I think there's an acknowledgement, but I agree that if it's something that somebody bought or there was miscommunication, I feel going forward is the way to, you know, especially with the ADUs and stuff, going forward is where we want to put the emphasis to make sure that there's the communications between the departments and people know that they need the hookup fee and blah, 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 you know.
Yep.
But I don't know how you go backwards, you know.
Well,
It's
the number
tough,
is 15, you say?
but not everybody.
Right, I
Not
was
everybody's
only
so
able
well.
to inspect 6 of them today, John.
everybody's so
Some of the homeowners are away right now, we're waiting for calls back to schedule
So
them.
some subset of 15 this would apply to. We're talking a
Yes.
low number. We're
Yeah.
talking a couple.
Yep, and I will say, you know, in speaking with the 6 owners that I spoke with today, there's less angst over the yearly
Yeah.
sewer fee. It's more
It's
so
so
the impact fee.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so I would recommend we continue to meet with people and give you some time to digest this and think about it. And we'll let people know we're gonna discuss it with you, but, you know, currently that's what the ordinance
And
states.
see where their sump pump goes.
I actually found 2 today, and it was tied into our system. Yeah, but they're working with TC Hafford to correct that, yep, so.
Tell them they get the sump pump discount.
Thanks, Chris.
Yep.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Chris. Okay, now I'll accept a motion on the warrant.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye, aye.
Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right, let's vote. Okay, 5-0. Thank you. We're off.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Paul, Mike.